Uh, just shout out to all you Virgos. Virgo season of the month. Uh, and so shout out to you all and all you Virgos. Happy birthday. And also, I noticed Carpet Head. Carpet Head deleted. For those of you y'all don't know who Carpet Head is, I'll tell y'all. It's this guy named R.J. Bonds, this big clown that's on YouTube. And I noticed he's been deleting all of his videos off his channel for some reason. He always got some. He pretty much shut his channel down. The Tubi cover up or Tupac assassination stuff. All of that stuff he don't pull down. So who knows what his plan is, but or what he's doing. But any of y'all need it if he's doing it for a reason, because he's in litigation, because he's always getting sued by somebody, and y'all need it. Trust me, Reggie Wright has it all download. Every one of his videos download. So if y'all need it, just reach out to me. I'll make sure you get it. However, I am missing one video because I was going through all the videos, and I was like, man, I need this video. That video that y'all remember when the meth head, his buddy, and him went out to Baker's, California, talking about they found a white Lincoln, and that was the car that was used to have something to do with the shooting of Tupac, a white Lincoln in Baker's, California, and he did a whole segment about that. If any of y'all have that video, please DM me. Y'all know y'all can get a hold of me at Reggie Wright Jr. On Instagram, but also our Bomb First at Hotmail. Yeah, John still got a Hotmail account, but yeah, Bomb First at Hotmail.com. If y'all could send that video to us, we would really like to add it to our collection. Anton Beatty. Anton Beatty. Now, remember him? He used to be around. He used to be on RJ and them head back in the day. Then RJ and them did that bitch shit when they go and call up to his job because he's a school teacher and, you know, start making all type of crazy threats and all of that. But anyway, and so he got off the internet. But Anton, I know you be listening to Reggie, right? Reach out to me. You know how to get a hold to me. DM me. My email still work the same because I know you might have that video, and we need to holler at you to help with the Tupac case. So appreciate you. Drake. Y'all see in the news, Drake believes, and shout out to Drake. I don't have a problem with Drake. If he loved Tupac like most of us do, and a lot of y'all do, and I know my partner John does. So he out there and he got the money. It's nothing to him to buy all this merchandise that he believes is Tupac. And that's closely related to Tupac. Drake, all I want to advise you, bro, is I saw on the back of the chain that says, "All Eyes on Me, 1996," presented to Tupac, "All Eyes on Me, 96," or something like that. Well, just so that you know, Suge gave those chains out to people, especially the first round of chains in 1995. Y'all listen to that clown Daz. He said he met him at the airport and gave it to him, which that wasn't true. But he did give it to him sometime when Tupac had his chain in 1995. I know a lot of y'all don't like to listen to Reggie Wright, so I'm sure John will post a picture at him in the Dogg Pound at the House of Blues or somewhere like that where Tupac had that Death Row chain on in 1995. So we're going to come up with this program for you guys where we want all you up-and-coming rappers where y'all can pay $200 or a fee where y'all DM either me on IG or John, hopefully John, because he's going to be the one coordinating it, at bombfirsthotmail.com. So I'll say it again, bombfirsthotmail.com. This is a new program, y'all, where y'all can play y'all music, Y'all can come on. It can be a song with a sample in it. You DM John, he'll give you all the specifics. But you can come on, and we're going to give you a special day that we're going to play music on Bomb First, and you can rap a 2 to 3 minute song. Sing, rap, or whatever. The second part of the program is that you also can do. All of y'all always talking about, John always asking Reggie nice questions. All these soft questions. I got better questions for Reggie. So for a fee of $300, John may even let y'all do $250. I don't know. Y'all got to talk to John. But y'all DM him at bombfirst@hotmail.com. And for a nice fee, you can have 10 questions. Any questions you want. You're not going to be on camera. You're going to be like John. I may not even be on camera, depending on the date that we do it, how soon you want to do it. But we're going to give you the opportunity to ask 10 questions. We're going to put up the segments right after we do it. And you ask me those 10 questions, and I'll answer those 10 questions. Any topic. You can call me a fat pig. If that's how you want to spend your $300 for 10 questions, you can just call and say 10 crazy things to me. Ask me 10 crazy things. As long as it's within the YouTube and John's guidelines, we good. So, new program, me and John trying to give to the Bomb First family community or our haters. However you want to be. Other than that, John, let's get going, brother. Okay, yeah. I really try to make a bet to myself, a challenge to myself to, even if Suge say something bad about me, not to respond to Suge no more. He can say I'm fat, stinky motherfucker, all of that stuff that he be saying, lately. Everybody stinks to him. Everybody breath stinks. Everybody gay or stink to him. I don't know why he let people get so close to him. But so I'm going to tread lightly on this response. Y'all act like y'all just heard it for the first time. Because she said it and it's in the news. Everybody like, oh, I never heard that. I never heard that before. Well, I got a video about 3 years ago where like 150,000 people heard it, where I talked about it. Here's the screenshot. Y'all go check out the video of what I said 3 years ago about this. Tell y'all, Reggie Wright done spoke on all this stuff. But y'all go back and look in the Bomb First thing and trust me, it done been talked about. Unfortunately, a lot of it has been on live streams. But this particular one was done on video, on screen. And then I think John even put it back up a couple of times on some flashbacks. So people have heard about it that really listen to Bomb First. Now, I don't know where Eve going. I don't know if it's because of Dr. Dre has a bigger name and people like to put in that it was about Dr. Dre. I mean, all right. Dr. Dre disassociated himself from Eve. And I got to bring evidence to y'all because y'all, Reggie always lying. Reggie just know hip-hop from the 90s. Anything concerning around Death Row, Interscope, all of that in the 90s. So I think she meant to really say Jimmy Iovine. But I'm going to show y'all why. So, and then I'll talk about the relationship. I told y'all, if y'all listen to that video, that Eve was not. I hate to say this because I don't know, but the times I was around there, Eve was like just you could tell she really was just kind of using them because I never saw them spend no nights together or anything like that. He took her. He was acting like he was looking for a house out in Brentwood and all that. Had a real estate agent taking them around, and they were looking at a few houses and stuff like that. Then he took her shopping at Fruits, this place called Burton's in the Fox Hill Mall. And I always laugh because he bought her one of those jackets. Everybody was wearing those bomber jacket, fur coats, type jackets. And then I talked to Stevie J a couple of years later because he started doing some business with my boy the Realist. And Stevie J said, yeah. I was in the room at the W Hotel when he dropped her off. And I was hiding in the room. And shit, she gave me that jacket. She couldn't give me that jacket. I knew she could just spend like 10 racks on that. So they messed around. If it was 2 weeks, I'll be surprised. But her reasoning is because she was trying to get away from Dr. Dre. Well, anybody know the history knows. She left. Dr. Dre stopped dealing with Eve in 1998 after that soundtrack, after that hit they had on the soundtrack. That's when he turned her over to Big Y and D from the Rough Riders. Suge didn't come home until August of 2001. I think him and Eve, it was around Christmas time. So that would have been December or November of 2001 that him and Eve was communicating. And then y'all know Left Eye came. Once Left Eye came in the picture, Eve wasn't in the picture or anything like that. But I'm telling you, most people don't know about Eve and Suge's situation. But me and this dude named Marquez Johnson, because Suge kept that on the DL. Because she was really just using him, like you said, for business and some management things. But I don't know why she put the name Dr. Dre in it. Because Dr. Dre had already acquiesced his contract from Aftermath. He might have had an override because I'm sure Jimmy always looked out for Dre. But if y'all look at it, everything from 98, 99 came out with Rough Riders with Eve. Okay? Eve had an album that came out, I think in 2001 or 2002, I forget when it was, on Rough Riders still, in like August or something like that. Suge didn't come home until August of 2001. So I really think she meant or wanted to say Jimmy Iovine if she had any problems or whatever. And that was after they got rid of her, after that third album came out, is when I think Interscope kind of went sour on her because that third album didn't do well. But she was not a Dr. Dre Aftermath artist. She was a Rough Rider / Interscope artist from 99 until 2002. What happened after 2002, I don't know. But I'll have John research it and put up some of these screenshots so y'all can see. So for her to say she was using Suge to get the dealings worked out, I don't know why she would say that. And definitely put the name Dr. Dre in it. I think that's just because it's a bigger headline, helps sell the book. But if you know the history, research the history, y'all see she was with Rough Riders during that time, DNY, and maybe she meant Jimmy Iovine because they both, Aftermath and Rough Riders were both signed to Interscope Records, who ultimately made all the decisions, especially with, as Suge used to call them, he never gave them credit as label deals. He used to call them something where you have an imprint on the back. I forget what he used to call them. But that was the type of deals that I believe they all had. They were all really had inducement letters with Interscope Records. So I would bet my life on it that Eve and Suge didn't sleep together, because I witnessed myself where Suge in the backseat. And y'all look at the video 3 years ago when I was the Suge Knight biggest supporter. I said then, I used to laugh how he used to try to kiss her while they were in the back seat of the car, and she would be always turning away from him, and like stop, Suge, stop, shit like that. So that's when I think he finally realized that this bitch ain't really into me. She just trying to get whatever she was trying to accomplish. But Suge was tell you, I joke around about him and a little Mexican boy and stuff now in prison. I'm talking in 2025. But in the 90s, in the mid 2000s, Suge didn't have no problem getting no woman. That was the last thing, last worry on his mind. And so, yeah, y'all check out the video that I said 3 years ago, because whatever I said then was probably more accurate. But because I'm trying to be politically correct now and not this bash on Suge. Peace bomb first.
You guys did Gridlocked, and then you did Gang Related. And on Gang Related, the Outlawz had 2 songs on there that were actually really good. I wanted to get your insight as to why the Outlawz didn't work out on Death Row, because I feel like with all the Tupac momentum, that it would be a natural choice just to try to put them out to get them to blow up off of that. So I was wondering if you could go into detail, because I know you were running the label at the time, about what happened with Outlawz not being able to work out.
It wasn't just the Outlawz, unfortunately. It was everything Death Row was trying to do at the time. That lawsuit between Miss Shakur, or the Tupac estate, and Death Row really, really hurted Death Row. I have always said the worst decision that I made or didn't make, or best decision that I could have made, was going to convince Suge and Miss Afeni to take a picture, do a big PR run, saying that everything is all good now. Once those settlement agreements started happening, the lawsuits got settled. Everybody always think Miss Afeni sued Suge first. It was actually the other way around. Suge sued the Tupac estate first. They got it rolling. She countersued and said that all these money was owed and all of that. And then they eventually settled for $3 million for back royalties and all of that. The date that video or that settlement was done, there should have been a video done with Suge and Miss Afeni, telling everybody that it was good. That's always been my opinion. If anytime you ever ask me what happened from the 90s to Wild, because everybody turned on Death Row. When I'm saying everybody, I'm talking about the consumers. I'm talking about the magazines and the trades. I'm talking about the radio stations. I'm talking about BET and MTV were playing stuff. Everybody was just, now they probably was sitting back wanting to hate on Suge the whole time, because Suge was an in-you-face type executive. He was the type of executive that will show up at the radio station if he felt there wasn't enough spins getting done in that particular area. So Suge he would get in your face. He would hear from the people that was like the Step or the Garnett Marsh and all of those people that were working radio, Step Johnson and all of them, Kevin Black and them, that it was a problem, and he will go straight and deal with the problem. So that's one of the reasons, the main reason that, in my opinion, that things didn't work out. Now, if y'all want to talk about, this goes basically talking about, which I know John is, the music, then I would say because, unfortunately, y'all get mad when I say this. A lot of the stuff that y'all heard and got was really Tupac studio garbage from the 90s, the ones that the mama controlled, and then the stuff on Death Row. That was stuff that Tupac had no intention on releasing. He was just working. It was just like work product and all of that, a lot of the music that y'all got. So the gridlock and the gang-related stuff, Tupac was around to help say, okay, these songs going to be on gang-related. I think, it was, the Made Niggas and songs like that. Okay, these going to be on grid, so he had those made for those. But as far as putting their album together, he wanted stuff like probably Hit 'Em Up and all of that, hits like that. And if he would have got there to fine-tune the Outlawz album and stuff like that, I really think it would have been, I really believe over 75% of the songs that eventually made to the Outlawz album, I'm not saying certain verses wouldn't have made it, but it wouldn't have came out in the form that they did. Because Tupac, Suge, when he gets in there and listening, because Suge is not a person that Suge would, when we get in the car in the limo and all of that, walking through airports, he would play music. You remember when y'all say walking in airports? What the hell are you talking about? We used to walk around back in the 90s with those big old boom boxes and stuff like that. I remember Suge always had a boom box. And he would walk around with that boom box because usually we had the boom box because in his hotel room, he was playing music. So we would have stuff like that with him. And he'd be playing and he'd listen to people's opinions and stuff. And then he would add it and make it happen. He would go and talk to Jimmy and Jimmy would put in and stuff like that. He was always sampling and playing his music for different people. Other artists. He had great relationships with Casey and JoJo, Mary J. Blige, people like that. And he would always just be playing stuff, and he really was picking their brains. People didn't realize it, but he was really, what he was doing was picking their brains. So I'm just saying that he would do stuff like that to fine-tune music. There was a lot of that stuff that was missing that wasn't able to go down for people in the 90s, 98, 99 and stuff when stuff eventually came out. So to answer John's question, it would be more so, I really think the public turned against us. But if y'all just talking about quality of music, then I would just say because a lot of the stuff were, it was just like rough drafts. It wasn't fine-tuned yet. And then people that wasn't as talented were the ones that fine-tuned stuff. When y'all was listening to a Dr. Dre, a Suge, a Tupac, and all of them fine-tuning those specific artists that they had up under them. I'm not saying Suge would have had anything to do with an Outlawz album by no means, but I'm saying that with Tupac. But there was other stuff that Suge would have his input on, and he wasn't around to fine-tune things, would be my take. But more so my take would be, and my belief is, just because I knew how hard it was to get the radio people to play stuff, MTV to play stuff, to get Frank and Dave Mays and all them to get a reporter down there to do a big write-up on the artists with the source and stuff. But as soon as Suge came home, first thing they wanted to do, y'all remember? Suge went and took everybody to 106 and Parkway and stuff like that. So that would be my take. It was because Suge wasn't there to usher things in is the reason that things like that didn't work.
I know they recorded like a solo album in 98. They later put it out as like a lost tape kind of thing on streaming services. But there was never any Tupac on these songs. Were they not? I don't want to say were they not allowed, but I know Daz got a Tupac feature and Rage got a Tupac feature and so on and so forth. Were they not allowed to get a feature at the time they recorded that 98 album for you guys?
Yeah, I know it was some politics between the Outlaws and every time I say stuff like this, everybody I get mad, but I just speak the truth. There was some shit going on with the Outlaws and Tupac mother or Molly and whoever, Tom Wally, whoever was running the estate. And it could have also been Suge. Wouldn't allow them to have any music, of Tupac. Because Tupac was like a gold. That was like you treated that like his voice and his music like even though the Machiavellis, the stuff those series on had got out, but you wasn't getting them out commercially to sell. So it was a reason. I know Edie probably could have went and maybe talked to the mother because at that time he did have a son by her, but I don't know where the drama was there. I'm not saying it was. It was just something that was going on. I can't remember where. It could have just been Tom Wally, who had a lot of control or decision over with the mother. She was letting Tom Wally run stuff back then, and Molly was his assistant. So it was something that was going on, John. But to say what it was, I don't know. But the Outlaws was just trying on their own, and well, we see what happened.
I know we had talked to Trayvon a while ago, and he had talked about an incident where he said that DJ Quick's camp leaked out the All Eyes on Me CD before it came out in '96. I just want to see, number one, your take on that story, and if it is true, how did you guys find out, number one, that it had leaked, but number two, how it got leaked?
Yeah. So what happened was, back in the '90s, it's so different now. Now you motherfuckers pay DJs and then people that make the CDs and all that to leak their singles out, on albums and stuff prior. But back in the '90s, you used to sell singles yourself, in the stores for $4.99. Y'all used to go buy a single and then have a B-side on a cassette or a disc. And so you used to treat your music like gold back in the '90s. So what happened was DJ Quick had this security dude, slash homeboy type security dude from his neighborhood named Donzelli. He was a good dude. Donzelli was solid, a real solid dude. But he messed up, and there was this shop in Compton that everybody used to go to. It was a weed spot, really, but they were supposed to have been a sound system place. My boy Melvin, shout out, rest in peace, Melvin Horde, Big Spanky, and all them. They had this shop on a laundry in Washington that used to work on cars and stuff like that. But they also was known for having good quality weed back in the day. And so Donzelli went up there and must have made a deal with Melvin and them or somehow. He says, as I remember, he was getting some work done on his car, and they must have stole the cassette out of his car. And so people was like, well, what was he doing with it? Well, DJ Quick was mixing down All Eyes on Me. A lot of people probably thought Dre did All Eyes on Me, but it was actually DJ Quick that Suge elected to have mixed down All Eyes on Me album. I'm sure his security guard probably gave him a cassette. That's when we came up with the rules, because that came up later where nobody could make any cassettes. And that was such a problem for me and my security, because the runners or the engineers couldn't make any cassettes without security getting permission. And so what usually will happen, they'll come and say, Tupac want to take home a cassette. The engineer to contact security call me, then I'll get it cleared by Suge. Y'all just don't know how many problems they call trying to get a hold of Reggie and Suge, or Reggie getting a hold of Suge. And so that eventually became the rule. But prior to that, they didn't have any rules like that in place. And so I don't believe DJ Quick was doing it to leak it for the Donzelli to make any money on the streets. I don't believe that, but that was the impression. So what happened was, so they were up there. It somehow got stolen out of DJ Quick or Donzelli's car. They were up there. Trayvon Lane and somebody. I probably was either wasn't K Dub because K Dub wouldn't have had to go up there for no weed. But Trayvon and somebody was up there at Untouchable Sounds, and they heard the music being played up there, and they asked, "Hey, how you get that?" And then it turned out it was Donzelli. That was the situation where I told y'all where Donzelli got called in the office, and so she'll call Donzelli in the office, and it was like four homies. I'm not gonna say any names. Four homies was in there, and that Pyru stuff kicked in with that homie stuff, and Suge said to Donzelli, Donzelli, you gotta take a fade with one of the homies. Which one of the homies, you're gonna take a fade with because you leaked this stuff on the streets, which, like I said, I really believe was an accident, but who knows? And and Donzelli was looking around, and Trey probably was gonna get picked because that's who everybody liked to pick on. But I remember when Rock stood up, Rock Chisholm, and I wasn't in there. I just heard this. I heard this story. And Rock said, "Step back. I'll take that fade." And that's when Rock and Donzelli got down. But hey, that's what happened. That's the story that you heard. But that's how All Eyes on Me got leaked. If 100 people got it from that, I'll be surprised. But that's the story behind All Eyes on Me getting leaked. And it was really just because of DJ Quick maybe leaving the cassette in one of his cars of his security guy, or maybe just giving it to him, and Donzelli left it in his car as he always claimed, or he went up there and sold it. I don't know, but that's the story behind that.
Okay. During your time, I know it was only 11 months that Tupac was there, but during that time, did you ever witness any disagreements or arguments between himself and Suge? And the only reason I ask this is I remember a story you telling me that he had called because he wanted to take some dats out of the studio or something, and he was being told no, and he got mad or something like that. Does that sound familiar?
Well, what happened on that situation was, as I just explained on the video earlier, how we had this rule where that was in place after All Eyes on Me kind of got leaked on the streets, that you had that the engineers had to get permission from security to put something on a DAT or a cassette, from reels to DAT or cassette. Now, that was hard to tell Tupac no for anything. Suge would never tell Tupac no for anything. However, it was a rule. And I guess Suge didn't want to say anybody but Tupac or anybody but Snoop, which I pretty much probably knew that was the rule. Let them do what they want. Because what guys used to like to do is they used to like to go, and how they used to always get us and get music out of the studio is they would say, and that's why y'all heard it on a segment where Suge say people got searched going in and going out. It was mainly so they couldn't be taking cassettes out of the studio. And so what the rule was, but what they would come and say is, especially Hammer was the main one, because they had these nice sound systems in their car. All Suge cars was freaked out with sound system. But some of the artists, like Hammer and Pac and Snoop and Daz and them, they had nice sound. So they used to say, everything sound good on those big, expensive ass speakers. So they would say they want to go and see how the mix or how it sounds on a speaker in a car. And so they can go in the parking lot and play it in their car. It's how they used to always want to get DATs or cassettes out of the studio. I don't remember if it was DATs or cassettes that that Tupac got mad behind, but uh, he wanted to. He just was like, "Fuck it," Tupac. Y'all know Tupac. If y'all don't haven't heard, that motherfucker was bipolar. Tupac would go in one day, go out. He was a firecracker. That's the correct word. Tupac was a firecracker, and one of the engineers probably said, "You got to ask security," and that particular day, he probably didn't want to play the game. Hey, call Reg, still Reg, get permission from Suge for this to, for me to take this on. Because he was, Tupac was Tupac. And so my security wasn't smart enough just to probably say, go ahead, Pac, have it or whatever. Which they probably wouldn't have did because they know they would have probably had some repercussions if they did. So I don't know if it was taking too long, if Tupac was just ready to go, but that's what happened. There was an issue where Tupac started going off because I guess the procedure was taking too long. The security wasn't able to get a hold of me, or I wasn't able to get a hold of Suge. I forget how it went, but that situation happened where he acted a fool. I remember the other time that he acted a fool, and those are the only two times I remember him going crazy or going off regarding DATs or cassettes. And that was and then when we had the situation at the airport, and back then you used to just buy tickets, and anybody can walk in with that ticket at the airport. You didn't have all this, everybody go to the gate. You didn't have all this TS. You had TSA, but everybody could go to the gate and go up there. You didn't have to have a ticket to go up there. And so everybody came, and it was the guys from New York was with them, and that was when they were having that party in Vegas with strippers and all of that stuff that I have always told y'all about. And they were all going up to the gate. Tupac wanted his whole crew to fly with him. Back then, a Southwest Airlines flight to Vegas probably left out every 30 minutes, from LA to Vegas. But he wanted everybody on the same flight. We didn't have enough tickets for the same flight for the whole entourage that he had with him. He got mad. He probably really didn't want to go. Because if y'all know anything about Tupac, he really, really wanted the studio. And, he really wanted to work. He probably, Suge likes to party, have a good time. Show everybody a good time. So they was a little different in that aspect. Suge, Tupac went, and at the gate of the, when he found out everybody couldn't get on the same flight, got mad, threw the tickets on the ground, and said, we going to the studio. I'm like, okay, whatever. They go, and they didn't end up going to the party, right? But in Vegas, because Suge had a bunch of strippers and everything at his house in Vegas. They go back to the studio. Tupac's mad. He's already pissed. So security goes and try to tell everybody they got to get searched. The rule was Tupac didn't have to get searched. I finally acquiesced to that. And Snoop and Suge. Probably David Kenner. Those were about the only ones that didn't have to get searched. Everybody else came in the studio. Or Jimmy Iovine, if he came, he only probably came up there 2 or 3 times a year, if that. But anybody else would have to get searched. And Tupac was like, y'all come in here. Y'all ain't searching none of my people. We just left the airport. Ain't nobody got nothing on them. And that's when a big melee happened because my security was like, nah, you can go back there, Tupac. But these niggas is with you getting searched. And I remember something big about that happening. The only other time, stuff's going back, but Suge and them kept it quiet when, of course, around August and stuff, and the alleged audit and stuff was going on, Suge and Pac was having some conversations, and there was something going on between them, about the signings Suge telling him, I remember sitting around him when he was saying, I'm going to give you a monthly of $75,000 a month to take care of Machiavelli Records. Y'all look at $75,000 as nothing now, but trust me, back in the 90s, $75,000 was a lot of money. And that Tupac was going to be getting $75,000 a month. And they were negotiating that contract and stuff like that. With little, stuff going on between them back then. And then the time when everybody keeps saying Tupac and Suge was arguing outside of the hotel because y'all listening to Michael Moore. It wasn't Tupac and Suge arguing. If you know how Tupac talked, he was just saying how he was pissed and all the things that he was going to do to Snoop for saying what he said on the radio and how mad he was about that situation. And so, other than that, those are the only times that I ever heard that him and Suge not acting like the best of friends. They were really, I heard an interview where I think Scarface was saying he didn't think they were that tight and stuff. I don't know if he's talking about pre-death row or what, but all I can say is I never saw that. I always say now, and if y'all know anything about Suge treats everybody cool. Everybody think they were Suge's best friend at one point in time in life. It's just when you fall out with him is when Suge usually go bad. But he treated everybody. Once you got to him and you can get to him, I can't think of anybody that never got over what they were asking for from Suge, especially in the 90s when he had it. And so I talk a lot of shit about Suge and all of that, but one thing I can say, when Suge had it, he was very generous with it. Peace.
I know that in 96 at some point, I believe it was the second half of 96, Kevin Swain did the video for Nate Dogg, Never. And I know his album was set to come out in pretty early of 97. I want to say maybe February or March of 97. The single was out. There were ads in the source and whatnot for the Nate Dogg album. And then abruptly, the album does not come out. We all know that it came out a year later on Breakaway, and they added another disc to it. But going back to the 96, 97, do you know why Nate Dogg pulled out, or did Death Row pull out, or what was the situation with that Nate Dogg album, and how were you made aware that he was going to be leaving the label?
He hadn't decided to leave the label yet. What happened was Interscope left Death Row. That's right around the time where Interscope were cutting off Death Row. He got caught in that Interscope Death Row drama. There was a whole bunch of those singles, or I remember up in the Potter Blue. It was a Potter Blue album cover that was floating around of Nate Dogg. They had gave the money for the video and to work the single. Because like I said, back in the day, you used to work a single for about 3 months before an album came out. But what happened is the separation agreement, or the separation between Death Row and Suge started taking place. Death Row and Interscope started taking place. And Nate Dogg got caught in the middle of that. The last album that I think that they did, that they were involved in, was one of the soundtracks, either Gridlock or Gang Related, whichever one came out first, and Lady of Rage album were the only two that are the last of non-Tupac albums that came out on Death Row with Interscope. And so what happened with that whole situation, it was just that unfortunately Nate Dogg had bad timing, and the situation with Death Row and Interscope was getting separated, and he got left by the wayside. Now, Nate Dogg went because we was getting stuff worked out. Suge Ended up getting a deal with Brian Turner and Priority Records, which I'm sure Priority would have put out Nate Dogg album because Nate Dogg was hot, but they were over there putting out Who Banging and gave Mac 10 that big deal, and he had his little deal and stuff like that. Master P was over there kicking ass, but they would have still did a Nate Dogg album. But Nate Dogg was known for hooks and stuff like that. And Nate Dogg went out there and just started working on his own and started doing hooks for a lot of different record or different artists. And there was this guy named David Mishry. That's who I ended up working for later on at American Music. He had this company called Breakaway Records. And he had Little Kiki and people like that. And he was hiring up death row people like crazy. That's what Papa G went and started working for. Risky did some work for, and stuff like a couple other people. Keita Rock went over there. Well, Keita Rock was over there because of Big C Style and Daz and all of them had a relationship. But my boy David Mishry, me and him became real tight. My boy Bob Gotti still works with him to this day. He built electric cars and stuff like that, and doing some boxing promoting stuff. But he took and came up there. Me and Dave became real tight. We was looking out and stuff, and he had Nate Dogg, and Nate Dogg was suing for royalties. What everybody was doing back then, and me and Dave Mishry came up with an agreement, and I got Nate Dogg. Dave Mishry got us $500,000 and to sign off on any royalties or anything being owed to him. And we sold him that album. Well, I think where they messed up at is they didn't come up with Nate Dogg 12 to 14 best songs. They just went on and Nate Dogg had some new stuff out, and then he took the disc that was already made, the CD that was already made by Death Row, and he made a double disc. But I really think Nate Dogg should have sat back and probably picked 14 songs, and we would probably know more about that G-Funk Classic CD than we really do know. But I think because it was on a label that wasn't known, Breakaway Records, who had a distribution deal with, I forget who they was even district by. Yeah, that's what happened with Nate Dogg. But have y'all ever heard me really talk bad about Nate Dogg? Nate Dogg is somebody I generally always liked, had a lot of love and respect for. And it's probably because I can sing his songs, because I think that's why we always like Nate Dogg, is because we can sing along with his songs. But man, I kind of one of the artists that really passed away that I hated that I wasn't doing this YouTube stuff with, and because I know he would have came and did something with me, and I always had a great relationship with Nate Dogg, and rest in peace to Nate Dogg, and still one of my favorite singers on hooks. The king of hooks is what I always called him. I know T-Pain and some of the females have taken over that range, but Nate Dogg was one of the first and the best in my opinion. Shout out Nate Dogg.
Yeah, I feel like how you spoke earlier about how the general public kind of turned on Death Row. I feel like if that Nate Dogg album had come out before that, I think it would have done really good, just based off of this, not only the material but the features. He had Snoop, he had Corrupt, he had Daz, he had Tupac, he had all the people on there, for it to be a Death Row quote unquote family album. So I thought it would have done good. Let me ask you this: when Daz separated from Death Row, I believe it was in late '99 or maybe 2000. I could be wrong on that year. Maybe it was 2001. But I know you had spoken about that it happened after he did a visit with Suge. My question is, did you take Daz to that visit with Suge? And if so, did he have any indication that if things don't go my way, I'm going to leave? Or was it just a regular meeting and then he got some news that he didn't like and he was out?
Well, Daz came back and forth two different times. Daz came back after I actually did the animation video on It Might Sound So Crazy. Daz got that video was done because he was there when Snoop Dogg got slapped up and they went running to the police. But what happened was Big C Style kind of brought Daz back. And that's when we were going to start doing this album. Or Suge had gave Big C Style and Daz a label deal together. I forget the name of their label. I had went out and got Big C Style a Benz and got Daz a Benz. And they were riding around. So Daz did come back eventually. Big C Style brokered that and got Daz back over there with us. Because we needed Daz as a producer, you know. And like I said, I always liked Daz. Me and Daz lived in the same spot in the Marina City Club. And so, but yeah, I don't remember if Daz rolled up with me that particular day because he had always had. But I had to start banning Daz from riding in my car because Daz was a druggie. Daz was on E-pills. Terrible. And they used to do searches at the prisons. They used to have the dogs because we was in Ione. And so they used to, man, every time I came out, they had a dog around my car, you know, sniffing and stuff to see if any drugs in there. And so I stopped letting Daz ride with me. So I'm pretty sure that's why Daz wasn't with me that particular day. But Daz came up with this, which is what's happening now. I tell you, Daz was kind of innovated where Daz he kind of thought of stuff in advance. So Daz came up with this great idea after, you know, his album Revenge, Get Back, and did what it did. But he came up with this great idea that he wanted Suge to do. He came up with, because by then they had VHS and video cameras out. And I think he was able to do a video then for like $10,000 a song or something like that. And he came up with this idea where he wanted to do a video on every song that he did on the album. And that's when we was riding around. You remember we were riding around in the cars and we put a CD in and it used to play on the dashboard and all of that? That was like happening in like the early 2000s, late 90s, where you put a CD in and then the video plays. And so that's what Daz wanted to do, a CD where he had a video to every CD. And so he came up with this, you know, where he needed a budget for like $150,000, $200,000 because, you know, Daz did all his beats and everything. So he really was saving money because Daz would come up with a song for nothing, you know, it didn't cost him much. But back then you really needed visual. You needed that video because videos were big. And I remember him sitting in there with Suge and telling Suge all of this and how he needed this and he wanted to do. And Suge looked right at Daz and told Daz, you and C-Style got this label. I need y'all to get artists and put people out. Put people like Superfly out and get these people ready and all of that. And so Daz was like, no, I'm going to be the first album artist out and I want to do this and do this. And so Suge looked at Daz. He had Michelet sitting there, so, you know, he always show off a little bit. But for some reason, I believe that was a Thursday. So it might have even been the other female, Tammy sitting there, because Tammy usually came on Thursdays and Sundays, and Michelet days was Friday and Saturday. So it might have even been Tammy's up there, because for some reason I remember it was a night visit. And Suge looked at Daz and said, Daz, I'm not doing no more video, no more albums on you. You're a producer, executive now. I'm giving you and Big C Style this label. Because he was giving them like 15 G's a month at that time. And he was like, I'm giving y'all a label, y'all do this. I'm not doing no more no more albums on you. He said, you whacked. And the shit started going in. You whacked as an artist, but you're a hell of a producer. Daz started crying. Then he had tears in his eyes. I was like, no, fuck that. I want to, do. And Daz got up out of the visitor room and left. So we called. Big C Style was still responsible for keeping up and keeping Daz under control. But then, right that week, I think, or a week later, I did this. This thing. I put it in a magazine. Hopefully John got a picture of it and he can post it. Where it was called DPG and Death Row Records or something like that. And it had like a rag and it had Bloods and Crips like joining together. And then on there we put all the artists that was on both of the labels. And we did that, but then under DPG, I had Snoop Dogg crossed out. I think Corrupt crossed out. And maybe even Nate Dogg. I forget who it all was. And Big C Style was livid. He was like, Reg, how you gonna cross them out? And do all of that. And so after that, it's kind of how the label deal with them went down. And that's how we eventually got separated from Daz. But yeah. So that's what happened between Daz and Suge from the visiting room. But prior to that, Daz had left the first time behind him, the slapping with Master P when Snoop got slapped on. So yeah.
So essentially, the ad that announced the label ended the label for DPG Records.
Correct. That and the fact that Daz was still upset that he couldn't, he wasn't gonna get that budget that he wanted to do an album and videos accompanied with the crossouts. That was like the straw that broke the camel back.
Gotcha. Okay. This is something you may have told the story about this, but I've never phrased a question in this way. So I wanted to ask, out of all the time that you were around Death Row, whether it was 94, 95, 96, 2001, whenever it was, if you had to narrow it down to the craziest thing that you saw, if you had to pick one, what would you say that one thing would be?
The craziest thing that I saw around Death Row. It's kind of hard to say. I could tell you some things that were scary. I'll just tell you a few things that I saw. First thing was when Tupac was laying on the ground there and having a seizure when he, had drunk too much or smoked too much, one of the two, and he passed out. Suge kind of caught him before he hit the ground, but he was over there vomiting at the mouth. I think it was just from, his system being clean because it was his first day out of prison and doing all that drinking and smoking. That was a situation that I always think of like, whoa, okay. I remember Suge looked at me right there and said, woo, all that money I almost spent, I almost lost that quick. Worst days, of course, is getting the phone call that Suge and Tupac had got shot, and that whole day, and that build up, that was a crazy. A lot of people I know y'all out there wanting to believe I had something to do with that. Y'all just don't know how that affected my life. Think about that weekly, if not daily. Especially back then. Good things that I saw would be like, and I know you asked for one specific thing, but it's kind of hard just thinking off the top of my head. But man, I love the Mother Day events that Suge gave for mothers, single mothers was the goal, even though a lot of the mothers wasn't single. You know, they were our parents and stuff. But y'all just don't know the type of event that was put on. It was like a ball that he gave first class gifts to, uh, first class artists, and a first class meal in a first class location in Beverly Hills. Though events like that, I was able to attend about three, and the smile, the gratitude, and the location and the ball was tremendous. House of Blues, House of Blues performance with Tupac and Snoop. Still probably one of my best shows that I ever attended and saw, even though I was working like crazy that day. But that was a great event, a great event. Uh, Flying first class on a private plane and sleeping and going to sleep and waking up back in New York with Suge Michelet and the barber Ron Bilal coming from Paris. After going around shopping, that's what Suge bought me my first Cartier. I already had a presidential Rolex, but he bought me a Cartier when we was out in Paris and on Michelet video shoot. That was that was something to remember. Going out there, flying back on that plane, and being treated the way the people treated us on that plane, that private jet. Uh, Stuff like that, man. Uh, just being around. I didn't respect or understand the talent and the people who are around and the things. Going to a Super Bowl, sitting on the 50-yard line of a Super Bowl, watching in Miami. Uh, that was an experience. That particular weekend, watching crazy ass Luke throw a female in the audience, and right after that, a gunman trying to come up there and shoot him, and shoot somebody else and kill somebody else right in front of us. But me being smart enough to start getting everybody off the stage in time and get them back to the limos. Where at the point of, as I was getting them all back in the limos right at the back door, the shooter ran in the car. Suge and Yo-Yo was in the back seat. And the shooter, with his gun, tried to jump in the car with Yo-Yo and Suge. And thank God I was there to yank him out, and he went running down the parking lot even further. There was some situations. There's some situations standing around outside the club in Paradise, and a dude walks in between our crowd, turns around, started busting on the Pac with all the Suge homies, me, Big West, and his boy Diamond, and Suge. Only one got shot in that time was Big Diamond. Got shot in the leg. But seeing how me, Buntry, Neckbone, and Big Suge come rolling around in that Rolls Royce, and me, Buntry, and Neckbone chasing him down the alley, yeah, that situation. I call it fun. I was young and stupid and dumb and full of calm, I guess, but those were some days. Now thinking back on it, how we all could have got taken out that day, and luckily only one person got shot, and it was really somebody that wasn't with us. It was Big Diamond. But situations like that is what make me think of being around Death Row. Good times and bad times. And like I said, seeing the generosities, and I talk a lot of shit about Suge lately, but I can say I have more good stories than really bad stories about Suge. Lately, he's been vindictive and being saying things to be hurtful, and probably rightfully so. But if I'm keeping it real, nigga was a good nigga back then. Now you's a bitch, motherfucker. But you'll be better. You just mad. Peace.
Okay, Reggie. This last week, did you see? Apparently, Munchie B got into some trouble with the police, and he had, from what I understand, he had 2 guns on him. Did you hear about this, and do you have any insight or thoughts about it?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I don't know. I'm not gonna say that the guns was on him because I don't know the facts of the case. But I know the police arrested him and they said that it was 2 guns that was recovered. So I'm not gonna sit up here and be one of those YouTubers to try to say it was on Munchie B possession or anything like that. I kind of feel bad for Munchie B because that shows me right there that he got homeboys that are around him that are leaving him in that type of situation that don't really love him like he may love them. Because, as I said, and when I corrected and called myself being back cool with, or cool, not that me and Munchie have any relationship, but he came over here and talked, and we kind of said we're gonna be cool towards each other, and um, I have always said that Munchie B was known to be a writer prior to prior and I don't know even after the unfortunate thing that happened to him with the shooting. Now I'm just going to talk about because I don't want to talk about the Munchie B situation. I'm just going to tell you some hypotheticals that may happen. Hopefully, one, Munchie B fingerprints not on any of those 2 guns. Because if there is, then you're going to have some problems. Especially the way the feds like to pick up the gun cases now for ex-gang members. A lot of people are saying, why did he get OR? Well, in LA County, because of the overcrowdedness in the jails and a bunch of lawsuits and stuff, crimes like that, they are given ORs. They give a lot of chance to. We have this new law where, and this is before my time in law enforcement, but I know they let people out that can prove where they live and all of that stuff. I don't even know how bail bonds was making money in California now because they pretty much letting everybody go because of the overcrowding in the county jails, until you get sentenced or whatever. So that don't let the YouTubers kind of make it seem like Munchie B is snitching or anything like that because he got a war. I know they do treat ex-cons a little harder, so our gang members a little harder, but y'all got to remember Munchie B do admits that he had that little connection with the GRID program. So that's why sometimes it's cool to have a relationship with law enforcement, no matter what you guys think. But the only thing I can see being a problem for Munchie B is, number one, if it was on his possession, which there's no evidence, and I know a lot of cops make arrests for guns that's been laying in a seat, laying in a car, or somewhere like that. Hopefully that's the situation where the gun wasn't on his person. 2, that no fingerprints come back with Munchie B with fingerprints on there, because if it does, I believe the feds will be picking him up and he will be getting rearrested. But I'm not hoping that, not wishing that. I'm just throwing out hypotheticals. And 3, gotta watch your surroundings. Yeah, I would being in a situation like him. I really believe Munchie B got some vision. I watched the video when he was up there pointing out hats and explaining what different hats mean. And when I seen that, I was like, this nigga could see. He just like Suge. He just got partial, just like 85% or something like that of blindness. But just because you legally blind don't mean you can't see anything. You're not like Stevie Wonder. And so that would be my take. My whole take is watch your surroundings. Know who you're around. Better always have somebody. People like saying you need to have a security guard. Well, it costs $200 to $300 a day to have a homeboy security around you. So nobody can afford that. You just got to have a down female that's going to look out for you, or a dude that's like James is to me, or Gotti is to me, or or my boy Frank, people like that that's just gonna look out for you no matter what, and where you don't have to be in no type of situations where they gonna make sure you good and where they ain't gonna leave you if some shit go down. Uh, so that would be my take on Munchie B. I really hope the best for Munchie B. I think he's been doing a great job of podcasting. Uh, and yeah, I hate that him and my boy Wack go at each other. And my boy, even my boy Snoopy Badass, and even my boy, uh, I just hate that it goes down because I generally would like to fuck with Munchie B. But as my boy Big D Dogg and Suge and people like that, they don't have nothing bad to say about Munchie B. And so I never met him, don't know much about him, but just from what I see on YouTube, he appears to be 100 dude to me. So best of luck to you, Munchie B. Hopefully you get a DA reject. Hopefully your fingerprint's not on the gun anywhere.